Courage in the darkness. The calm before the storm. October 2018, Barron, Wisconsin. It was a chilly October afternoon. The sky was a soft gray, and the wind whispered through the trees, scattering red and orange leaves across the quiet street. Jayme Closs walked home from school, her backpack swinging at her side. The smell of fallen leaves filled the air. When she opened the door to her family's house, the warm scent of spaghetti sauce greeted her. Her mom hummed softly in the kitchen while her dad sat reading the newspaper at the table. Jayme dropped her backpack and smiled. She loved coming home to this, her family, the little dog Bear padding at her feet, and the cozy kitchen that smelled like love. She pulled out her phone and checked messages from her friends. Halloween was just around the corner. They were planning a party, and Jayme was excited. Costumes, candy, music, all the things that made the season magical. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of pink and purple. The neighborhood grew quiet as shadows stretched across the empty street. Everything felt safe. Normal. Perfect. Nightfall's silent danger. Jayme was upstairs in her room. The soft glow of her nightlight made the shadows dance on the walls. The house was still except for the faint hum of the heater and the occasional creak of old wood. Suddenly, a loud thud downstairs shattered the calm. Jayme froze. That noise wasn't normal. Then came a knock, sharp, insistent, at the front door. Her pulse quickened. "Mom? Dad?" she whispered, but there was no answer. Footsteps hurried through the hallway below, heavy and hurried. Her heart pounded so loud she thought the whole house would hear. The front door crashed open with a violent bang that shook the whole house. Her mother's voice rang out, desperate and trembling. "Please, don't hurt us." Then silence. Then footsteps, slow and heavy, coming up the stairs. Jayme's breath caught as the floorboards creaked beneath each step. Suddenly, the door to her room slammed open. A dark figure stood there, a man wearing a mask that hid every inch of his face except for cold, calculating eyes. "Don't scream," he hissed, voice icy and low. Before Jayme could even cry out, rough hands grabbed her. She fought, kicking and struggling, but his grip was iron. Her mother's scream echoed down the hallway, a sound that would haunt Jayme forever. The man dragged her down the stairs, every second feeling like an eternity. She glanced back, desperate to see her family one last time. But all she saw was darkness swallowing her home. Taken into the dark, endless night. The car ride felt endless, like Jayme had been whisked away into a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Outside, the world disappeared behind the blur of speeding trees and empty roads. No street lights. No familiar signs. The cold night pressed hard against the windows. Jayme's fingers curled into tight fists. Her mind screamed questions with no answers. Where were they taking her? Would anyone find her? Was this how it would end? Her captor sat silent, his eyes hidden behind a mask, his grip unyielding. He said nothing, but his silence was heavier than words. Every bump on the road rattled through her bones. Every turn drove her further from everything she loved, from the warm kitchen, from Bear, from her mom and dad. When the car finally stopped, Jayme was too numb to react. She was pulled from the vehicle, her feet scraping the rough ground. They walked into the darkness. The air smelled like pine and damp earth. Before her was a cabin, old and forgotten, hidden deep in the woods. The kind of place no one would think to look. Inside, the air was cold, stale, and smelled of dust and mildew. The only light came from a single bare bulb hanging low from the ceiling, casting eerie shadows on cracked walls. No windows faced outside. No way to see the sky or sun. Jayme's heart thundered. The door slammed behind her, locking with a heavy, final click. She was trapped. The cage, time stretched thin. Days blurred into nights. Jayme lost count of how many sunsets she missed, how many breaths she took trapped inside those walls. The room was tiny, bare, and cold. No bed, no chair, just a concrete floor that bit into her skin. Meals were dropped through a hatch, cold sandwiches, a small glass of water. Enough to survive, never enough to feel safe. Her captor visited only to bring food, sometimes to threaten, sometimes to just watch. His voice was low and cruel. Jayme learned quickly to be silent, to hide her fear, to keep her thoughts locked away where no one could touch them. But inside her, a spark refused to die. She imagined her parents, waiting for her. She imagined Bear, his furry face, his wagging tail. She imagined the world outside, the sun, the sky, the freedom. That spark grew into a fierce fire. She vowed silently, "I will get out. I will survive." Survival, mind over fear. Jayme began watching and listening like a hawk. She studied every sound, the creak of the floorboards when her captor walked, the jingle of keys, the way the door clicked when it locked. She counted his footsteps, memorized the times he came and went. She tested the locks, feeling for weakness in the door. When fear rose like a storm inside her, she calmed herself with prayer, whispering words she barely remembered from Sunday school, asking God to give her strength. In the cold, dark silence, Jayme's mind became her strongest weapon. Each day she grew more determined. Each day she planned. Each day she waited. The opportunity, a crack of hope. Weeks passed. One evening, as the wind howled outside, Jayme noticed something different. The door was left unlocked, just a small crack, but enough. Her heart beat wildly. She listened. Footsteps moved away, fading into the night. Jayme held her breath. Slowly, carefully, she pushed the door. It creaked loudly, a sound that made her stomach drop. But no one came back. She slipped out, shivering in the cold night air. The woods loomed before her, dark, thick, and full of unknown dangers. Her bare feet brushed cold leaves. Her lungs burned as she ran, each step pounding like a prayer. Behind her, a shout pierced the night. "Come back!" Fear surged, but stronger was the fire inside her. She kept running, toward the distant lights, toward hope. The escape, freedom's fragile light. Jayme burst into a clearing, where a car was parked. She collapsed in front of it, breathless and shaking. The driver jumped out, eyes wide with surprise. "Are you okay? Who are you?" he asked urgently. Tears spilled down Jayme's cheeks. I need help. Please." The man nodded and pulled out his phone. Within minutes, the police arrived, sirens slicing through the night. Jayme was wrapped in a blanket, her body trembling but her spirit soaring. She was safe. The aftermath, healing and hope. News of Jayme's escape spread like wildfire. The town of Barron held its breath, waiting for news. Her captor was arrested. Her parents' killer was caught. Jayme became a symbol, not of fear, but of courage and resilience. The road to healing was long and hard. She had nightmares and pain. But she had also hope, hope in her family, hope in herself, and hope in God. Courage, determination, and faith. 1 year later, Jayme stood before a crowd. Reporters' questions buzzed like bees, but she looked past them. She saw her parents, their faces filled with love. She saw her dog Bear, tail wagging furiously. And she felt something stronger than fear. She felt courage. She felt determination. She felt the quiet strength that comes from faith. Jayme knew she had been given a second chance, a chance to live, to love, to inspire. She whispered a prayer of thanks. Her story was no longer about darkness. It was about light. It was about never giving up. It was about the power of God's grace to heal even the deepest wounds. Jayme smiled softly, ready to face the future. Because she was free. Because she was brave. Because she was loved.